Please support the Feral Druid army. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. Meow. Hello, I'm Wolfus, and welcome to my video tutorial. Today we're going to be talking about Feral Druids in PvP for patch 7.3.2. Feral Druids are in a good spot right now for Legion standards. Now there have been a lot of changes to Feral Druids since previous expansions, and even in Legion we've seen a few changes as well. I think where we are now is a lot better than where we were at the beginning of Legion. I think it's a good time for you to get into Feral Druid as well. Definitely get the Legion Artifact Challenge skin because it's going away after Legion. I just want to throw that in there. But if you're looking to do some PvP on your Feral Druid, I think that you'll find yourself having a good time. Granted, there is a little bit of a learning curve. You're going to have to weed through different compositions and arenas to figure out what works best for you. You might have to mess around with a few different rated battleground groups and figure out how to play in a rated battleground, what your playstyle is, what fits you. And you're going to figure it out along the way. Practice does make perfect in this case, and I think that if you do get into Feral Druid, you will have a good time. This guide right here, we're going to be discussing talents. We're going to be talking about honor talents, some of the spells to use and abilities. There's not too much that I'll go into on that end, but I will give you a general knowledge of the abilities that need to be used, how to use the talents properly, and what cases you may want to use different talents in, different arenas, situations. So we're going to go through all of that right now, starting with the talents. Let's get into it right now. I'm going to be just discussing and walking through this, doing this all in one take pretty much. So, it's going to be more, I feel like there'll be a little more content in here, but I will try to keep it brief. So there's not going to be, a whole bunch of talking about nonsense. But for PvP, actually got to change my talents here. I'm in Antorus right now, because I was doing Antorus last, but I'm going to put on some PvP talents right here. Really quick, before my tomb runs out. Let's see here, Savage Sabertooth. Okay, so for your PvP talents, let me see. I'll leave those there for now. Okay, so PvP talents, what I like to run with is something that looks like this. Lunar Inspiration is great because it gives you Moonfire in cat form. It's castable in cat form, and you can see here it's got a low energy cost compared to Shred, which is 10 energy more. And you can use that at a range, so if you're going against a comp where you're needing to LOS the enemy, like a Warlock who's got Chaos Bolts or some crazy shit that's coming in piling hard on you, then you can Moonfire around corners, go back and forth, bleed up enemies, use your stronger abilities like Ferocious Bite or, rip up an enemy whenever you need to, but you can build combo points pretty much all of the time. So Lunar Inspiration is great, and it's low combo point, so, it's a little cheaper. It's great to have, and also if you're using Blood Talons and you want to use Regrowth a little earlier than 4 or 5 combo points, you can use Regrowth and then use Lunar Inspiration to get yourself up to 5 combo points or 4, so that you can apply like a Rake or a Rip, and it'll be, your Blood Talons will be effective on the Rake and the Rip, because Lunar Inspiration obviously is not a melee ability, whereas Blood Talons only affects melee abilities, but it does affect bleeds though, so think about that. Lunar Inspiration, definitely a go-to. I do love it. I think it's one of the better talents, especially in duels, arenas, in rated battlegrounds. You might want to opt for a Blood Scent. Could be good. Lunar Inspiration is one of my go-tos though in rated battlegrounds as well, but Blood Scent gives you a little more critical strike, although with the PvP stat template, you might be better off with Lunar Inspiration, but it's all up to you, because in the PvP stat template, you're favoring Mastery, so you're more focused on the bleeds, damage a little bit, but you also, go with the talent like Sabertooth for some strong Ferocious Bites. So the second row, I like to go with Wild Charge, simply because it gives me a lot of mobility. You can use it in travel form, so I could press like, I can't travel form in here, but I have my travel form binded. I press my travel form and also my Wild Charge at the same time, and it will push me away from somebody. Like if I'm flag carrying, I'll run the flag and then I'll Wild Charge off a cliff or around somebody, or try to maneuver. Or if I'm trying to get LOS, I can Wild Charge away into behind a pillar or somewhere where they can't get me. You can use it to get away, but also pull 2 enemies. You can also use it to pull to your healer or to anyone else on your team. So Wild Charge is definitely a go-to. In duels, Renewal can be good. Renewal is good for a really quick heal, but Wild Charge, it can be very good in duels, especially if you're fighting somebody who's going to kite the shit out of you. You're not going to win a duel if you can't catch up to them. So renewal is only so good. Renewal will save your ass at a warrior duel, but if you're facing someone like a mage, you're probably going to want to go with wild charge, because you're not going to be able to do damage if you can't catch up. The next row here, balance affinity. I love balance affinity in arena 3v3s, especially if you have a competent healer, somebody who can keep you up. You're not going to really need guardian affinity as much. If you're running lunar inspiration, you're going to be a little more kitier. You're going to be running around. You got to get LOS down. LOSing, line of sighting enemies, is very important. You want to make sure that you're line of sighting big damage abilities, any CC that could be coming your way. You want to be paying attention a lot of the time, and that is very important. If you're very good at that, balance affinity is going to be great, because you get an extra 5 yards. So your lunar inspiration, your moonfire, will now go from 45-yard range to 50-yard range, which is very large. And you can also use your abilities like rip, rake, shred at a 5-yard range, so you don't have to be right on top of the target, whereas you could be about 5 yards away. So if you're trying to LOS and kite, you can run up, hit them, run back, and you'll be good to go. And this is good for warriors, and you know, like you have your rake, which will slow the enemy. So if you're slowing a warrior, you could kite just out of line of sight with that 5-yard range, and you can just strafe away while they're chasing you, and you can hit them, smack them, hit them. So that's really good. You want to be able to take advantage of that. It takes a little bit of practice to be able to do that, and it's not always foolproof. You know, some people will always catch up to you. They can slow you, and then they're going to catch up anyway, but balance affinity is really nice. And then guardian affinity is good as well. It reduces all damage taken by 6%. It gives you frenzied regeneration, which is really nice. It recovers about 50% of the damage you took within the last 5 seconds over 3 seconds, I believe. So you pop that after you take a lot of damage, or while you're taking a lot of damage. You go into bear form, frenzied regeneration, and it's going to save your ass in a lot of spots, especially if you're running like double DPS, or you know, don't have a healer with you, or if you're in like a rated battleground perhaps. I don't know. There's a lot of situations where guardian affinity will be good. You can use it in duels as well. That's about it for that row. I tend to lean away from resto affinity, but balance affinity is definitely my go-to. The next row here, we got Mighty Bash, and Mighty Bash seems to be my favorite most of the time. I go with it because it's a nice stun, and I like to couple it with Enraged Maim. Enraged Maim makes your maim no longer a stun, but an incapacitate. And I don't always use Enraged Maim. I sometimes go with Earthen Grasp for King of the Jungle for a little more speed. But Enraged Maim will be great because it will allow you to use an incapacitate for 5 seconds, whereas it's not DR'd by your stuns. So you can get somebody in a stun for 5 seconds, go immediately into the Enraged Maim, or maim then stun. I find that, you know, maim is good first because, you know, I don't know. It's just nice because you can keep damaging after the stun. But you can put, you know, you maim up, you stun up, you fear up, you cyclone up after that, whoever is on your team, and you can keep people locked down pretty well with that. And this has like a 10-second cooldown too. It is nice sometimes to have Enraged Maim as a stun though, because, or maim as a stun rather, because, you know, if you're fighting a healer and you're really close and you want to lock down him, or you're fighting a DPS, you want to lock down somebody, it's important. And that's another thing why balance affinity comes in handy. Using stuns, you can run up, you don't have to get on top of the target to stun them. You can you know, just get close enough to Mighty Bash them, or close enough to maim them, run back, wild charge away. You know, you're not having to get on top of everybody every single time. The next talent that I prefer is Incarnation, King of the Jungle. We all know this. It gives you a big burst of damage, energy increasing, you know, it increases your maximum energy by 50, and then it recuperates energy, so that's very nice to have. It causes a lot of damage, and your shred is going to be insane during this time. You can use this along with your Ashmane's Frenzy, which is your artifact ability, you know, and if you have, you know, you get the Bloodletter's, or the Bloodletter's Frailty, bam. It increases the damage of your abilities by 30% with the target afflicted by Ashmane's Frenzy. So you put the Ashmane's Frenzy on there, you know, you pop your Incarn, and you should have Ashmane's Frenzy at the same time because it's a 1.25 minute cooldown, so you can use it a couple times before the cooldown's up. But, you know, you can really push through a lot of damage, and you can get a kill very easily. Usually I can tell when the kill's coming because it's pretty quick. So that's a good talent to use. I haven't really messed around with any other talents. I feel like Incarnation is the best one to use. A lot of different ferals are using it. definitely pick up Incarnation. Sabretooth, I do prefer. Sabretooth does a lot of damage when you're using Ferocious Bite. You get a 20% increase, and it'll refresh the duration of Rip. So when you have your bleeds on targets, you don't have to use 5 combo points on a Rip to reapply it. Rather, you can use your 25% extra damage Ferocious Bite to refresh the Rip for you. So if you're trying to bleed up everybody in an arena and you want to go up and very quickly refresh the Rip on the off target, you can do that. You can go and do that really quick and also do a little bit of damage at the same exact time. And you know, it adds to a little bit of the pressure to the off target, and it increases the duration of the bleed. So very nice there. And if you're going down on the healer, going down on him, you can use Ferocious Bite continuously. So, you know, you already have your Rip on the target. You don't have to reapply it. You could just Ferocious Bite over and over and over again if you're whether in healer or a DPS or whatever your kill target is at the time, and it just causes a lot of extra damage to pile on. If you use Incarnation, you can shred a bunch of times and then Ferocious Bite, shred a bunch of times, Ferocious Bite. You know, you can use Tiger's Fury, get a couple combo points. Ashmane's Frenzy, you got 5 combo points right there, and then you Ferocious Bite, you know, and then you keep shredding and Ferocious Biting, shredding, Ferocious Biting, and you're getting a lot of extra damage there, especially with the Ashmane's Frenzy up and the Tiger's Fury up at the same time. I'm telling you, it's insane. You're going to get kills with it. You just need to be careful not to get CC'd whenever you pop Incarn, though. Make sure you're careful with that. Watch CCs. And then we have for the last talent, I go with Blood Talons simply because I like to empower my bleeds. I also use it to empower my Ferocious Bite, so I get an extra 20% on top of the Sabretooth 20%. So, you know, we're looking at about 40% extra damage there. I'm not sure exactly how it stacks, or it's 20% plus the 20% of that new 20% stat. I don't know, or if it's just like 40% in general. I have no fucking clue. But it adds a lot of extra damage on there. So Blood Talons is a great talent to use. You know, you use it on your bleeds every time. You use it on your Rake and your Rip, and you use it on your Ferocious Bite. And that's pretty much it. Use it on your Ferocious Bite simply because it's going to refresh your Rip. If you're not using Sabretooth, you want to use it on your bleeds every single time. Sometimes you can use it on your Ferocious Bite if you have time, but if you're bleeding up multiple targets, chances are you're going to be keep ripping and ripping and ripping and ripping. You're not going to have a lot of opportunities to use Ferocious Bite, but if you do, do it. And that is about it for the talents. I want to declare it can be a good one to use. It adds a lot of extra damage. I like to use it in random battlegrounds. It's fun. It's cool. It adds damage. It gives you more energy, and it triggers a lot of the time. 100% of the time. 100% more of the time. So, you know, you're getting a lot of free shreds, brutal slashes, whatever you're coupling it with. And brutal slash can be fun to use as well. But this is my main primary talent build right here. This is what a lot of rank 1s are using, a lot of higher end PvP Feral Druids are using right now, and I recommend this build a lot. I've had a lot of playtime with it. I tried pushing rating with this. I didn't have the best amount of games played, so, you know, I was getting my practice up and everything, but this was the build that really brought it home. This was what really helped and worked for us, so this build right here is great. Let's move on to honor talents really quick. I'll go over this really quick. I go with the Trinket 99% of the time. I just find it to be better. This is a short 2-minute cooldown. I don't find myself having to get out of situations a lot where I want to use adaptation or relentless. I guess if you're going up against like a comp that has fears and stuns and all sorts of different shit, you might want to go with something else. But Gladiator's Medallion, gotta take a second there. Gladiator's Medallion is very nice to use, and I use it a lot of the times. Reinforced Armor I will use up against comps that have casters and a DPS, or both casters, you know. Sometimes I will go with sparring if I'm going up against warriors, but you need to remember that, like, if you're going up against a DK, it's not all melee. They have spells and abilities as well. Same with paladins, you know. So, you know, reinforced armor is pretty much the way to go. Sparring can be a good one as well. Hardiness, if you're above 80% health, you know, you take less damage, but it all depends on your comp, how well you guys are performing. But reinforced armor is kind of my go-to right now. For the next row, we have Thorns, which is very nice against melee, and also Tooth and Claw, which I like using. I haven't really gotten too into Protector of the Grove, simply because regrowth does not heal for a large amount of damage, and you can only use a certain amount of regrowths, because, like, if you see here, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 regrowths until you're out of mana. Like, it's 20% of your mana to use a regrowth, so you don't get too many to use, although your mana does go up pretty quickly. In combat it's a little bit slower, but I like Thorns because it slows down attackers, and it causes 5% of the damage being dealt, or it takes 5% of their health whenever somebody attacks with melee abilities. So that is a very nice one. You can throw it on your healer. You want to use Thorns every single time it's off cooldown, every single time. And you can go with Tooth and Claw as well as Guardian Infinity, or even by itself if you're going up against a comp that you feel is going to have a shit ton of damage and they're all casters. So use Thorns if it's up against a melee comp and you feel like you're going to be fine. Tooth and Claw against casters, you know, you can go into bear form really quick. You can hide LOS in bear form, or just sit, you know, and relax. And it also increases the damage, but you know, having your maximum health increased is nice. I don't know. I prefer Thorns though, like 80% of the time. It just depends on what comp I'm facing. Savage Momentum is very nice. This is the next talent to use. I use this every single time. Interrupting a spell with Skull Bash resets the cooldown of Tiger's Fury, and Tiger's Fury is very important because it will give you extra energy, you know, and it'll increase the damage of your abilities used afterwards. So you really want to use this because without Tiger's Fury, you're going to be sitting without energy sometimes. So whenever you have an opportunity to Skull Bash a spell, make sure it's important, because if you're going up against a certain comp, there are certain spells that you want to interrupt. Like if a Warlock's casting a Fear and you have a half DR on you, you probably don't want to interrupt that one unless he's going to get like a Chaos Bolt off, but you really want to use it on important spells like a Warlock's Chaos Bolt or like a Mage's Ebon Bolt, I guess. So, you know, you want to plan your interrupts very, very well, but you also want to use your interrupt often. So make sure you're using your interrupt often to get that Tiger's Fury reset, but make sure it's on important stuff. Make sure you're watching what you're interrupting, and make sure you're not getting juked. Be careful about that, because a lot of people, especially when you get higher rated, will do that to you, and it's a pain in the ass. It sucks. So you really want to be careful. You want to watch out. The next ability here, we have, you know, Enraged Maim, which I talked about, which is very nice. It turns your stun into an Incapacitate, and having this is nice because of most of your crowd control, you know, you have Roots, but you also have 2 stuns. You have Mighty Bash, and you have Rake, which stuns if you're in stealth, which as a Night Elf, having Shadow Meld is nice because you can Shadow Meld a Rake stun for like a 2 or 3 second stun. 4-second stun. So you get a 4-second stun with Rake if you use Shadow Meld really quick, which is only 1 second less than Mighty Bash, which is really nice. So if you're running with a comp like, you know, that like a Holy Paladin who has a Hammer of Justice, you can use that. If you're running with a Priest who has Fear and a Stun, you can also use it because, you know, Fear, Stun, and now you have an Incapacitate along with your Stun as well and your Roots. So this is really nice to use in certain situations. Earthen Grasp is very nice though. Do not underestimate Earthen Grasp. You can use it and it's undispellable, non-dispellable, and it reduces the enemy's chance to hit by 80%. For 10 seconds. Well, it has a 10-second cooldown. So you can use this on warriors, and you can legit keep them rooted up and crowd controlled up for a long time. Or you could use it on anybody, really. I've even used it on like people to keep them LOS'd away. Like if a healer's around a pillar and I notice that the warrior who I'm facing is actually following me and chasing me, sometimes I can use the Roots to root up the healer while the warrior runs behind a pillar, LOS, and I can do a mean amount of damage to him, and he's away from his healer. I guess if you're at higher ranking, it wouldn't be as possible because more people are smarter, they're paying attention, they're in team speak, and they're communicating everything that's going on. The next talent row here, we have Ferocious Wound, which I go with all the time. I will say all the time with Ferocious Wound. Attacking with a 5 combo point Ferocious Bite reduces the target's maximum health by 15% by 20%. So the maximum health of the enemy that has Ferocious Wound on it is reduced by 15%. It doesn't chunk 15% of the health, and it's only one effect, so they just basically have 15% less health. And if they're using Reinforced Armor, you know, it's like basically 5% less health from their normal, but you know, because that gives you 10% health. This takes away 15% health, so you know, it's basically like Reinforced Armor where it gives you health, but it takes away health. So Ferocious Wound is nice, and you're using Ferocious Bite anyway, especially if you're using Sabertooth. So, and that's good because if you're going around and bleeding up multiple enemies, you know you're off targets, you go, hey, I gotta refresh my rip, I'm gonna Ferocious Bite the motherfucker really quick. go over there, and we hit him. And that is why Ferocious Wound is great, along with Sabertooth, which allows you to use Ferocious Bite quite a bit. So everybody's getting Ferocious Wound up in this bitch. Alright guys, so let's talk about comps really quick. So comps that you can play, we have Jungle Cleave, which is very nice. We got a Marksmanship Hunter, along with, like, I believe a Disc Priest is best. You can play it with a Paladin. I had a Paladin Healer last season, and we got to 1960, 1970 rating last season. It was our first time running Jungle. We ran it the last, like, week or two of the season, so we weren't too well versed in it, but we did win quite a few games, and it was awesome. It worked very well for us. Very well. So Jungle Cleave is my go-to comp right now, and I will recommend that you use that. You have multiple traps, you have multiple stuns, you have, you know, like if you're running with a Paladin Healer, you have Repentance, you know, you have Enraged Maim. You can also use Maim as a stun, so you have your stuns, you have a lot of stuns. You have a lot of CC with Jungle Cleave. You have a lot of damage as well. Marksmanship Hunter is crazy. Along with Feral Druid, you get a lot of bleeds up, you get a lot of direct damage from the Feral Druid, and you get a lot of bursts from the Marksmanship Hunter. And it is insane, good to use, very nice, especially if they have a pet with Mortal Strike. You reduce the healing received from the healers. So Mortal Strike pet is nice, you know. Jungle Cleave is definitely one that I prefer to play with. If you're playing twos, I will say that running with a Disc Priest Feral is very nice. I do enjoy Disc Priests in 2v2. You can really lock down people with that comp, and you can do a lot of damage. The Disc Priest also does damage, so it's very nice to use a Disc Priest in 2v2s. So that's about it for comps really right now. If we want to talk about damage, which I'm not going to get too far into because, you know, it's very hard to explain the damage. At least for me, it's simple. I mean, there's only so much I can say about the damage, I guess, but if you want to have a longer conversation, you can leave it in the comments, and I will try to have a discussion with you about damage if you have any further questions. But it's basically you trying to, you know, rake up your enemy. You know, you want to get that initial rake on every enemy, as many as you can, and that will slow them. It'll keep them away from your healer. You want to use Shred to generate combo points whenever you're going hard, if you're really trying to increase or pump out your damage and maybe get a kill, or just a lot of pressure trying to get some survivability cooldowns used by your enemies. That is really good. That's a combo point generator. We also have Moonfire, which generates combo points. I did go through that a little bit. You use that at a range, and that will really help you out. It'll help you kiting. It will help you conserve energy, and it's very nice. As far as combo point generators, the only other one that I can think of is, you know, Swipe, which I don't really use that much, to be honest. It doesn't do a lot of damage, you know, compared to Shred, where it does a lot of damage. But Swipe is, don't use Swipe as much, no. But also Ashman's Frenzy is a combo point generator, and it gives you 3 combo points. This is also a good ability because, you know, it does a lot of damage over time, and it lasts about 6 seconds. So it lasts 6 seconds. So the initial effect lasts 3 seconds. So it'll do the initial 3 seconds of damage where it caused the enemy, and then it'll leave a 6-second bleed afterwards, which is what will increase your damage by Bloodletter's Frailty, which increases it by 30% when it's afflicted by it. So that is what you're going to get that extra damage. The window is 6 seconds. Ashmane's Frenzy, I will try to get up to 2 combo points. I will Ashmane's Frenzy, and then I'll use a Ferocious Bite after, and that's quite a bit of damage. Usually before Ashmane's Frenzy, and before I start a mean combo where I'm just using a lot of damage, I will use Tiger's Fury. So Tiger's Fury, Shred, a lot of the time Shred will award 2 combo points if it crits. So I'll use Tiger's Fury, Shred. If I don't get 2 combo points, I'll use a Moonfire to buff it. And then I'll use my Ashmane's Frenzy to get to 5 combo points guaranteed. And then I will use a Ferocious Bite. So right now we have our Tiger's Fury increasing damage. We have our Ashmane's Frenzy increasing damage. And it's just going to be insane. And this is a soft burst. This is your soft burst right here without Incarnation. We'll get into Incarn in a minute. But then I'll use Ferocious Bite. So right here we have the 20% extra damage on the Ferocious Bite, as well as from Tiger's Fury and Bloodletter's Frailty. One thing I do want to say though, you want to use Regrowth. I messed this up. So you want to get the 2 combo points, Regrowth, because you want to get Blood Talons, and then Ashmane's Frenzy, and then Ferocious Bite. Don't forget the Regrowth, because Like I said, you're going to be running with Blood Talons. Very important that you use Regrowth, because when you use Regrowth, it activates Blood Talons, giving you Blood Talons. So you have this for 29 seconds, and your next 2 melee abilities are empowered, increasing 20% extra damage. So using that right before Ashmane's Frenzy, and then when you use Ferocious Bite, is insane. So that's where the soft burst comes from. That's where the damage comes from. So you're adding on the short cooldown Tiger's Fury on top of the Ashmane's Frenzy, and you know, the Regrowth and the Ferocious Bite. And then basically after that, I just keep going on, because Tiger's Fury is going to give you some extra energy regeneration. Just shred, 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 shred. Try to get another Ferocious Bite. Usually with that 6-second window that you have from Ashmane's Frenzy bleed, you can get 2 or 3 Ferocious Bites in, which will cut the damage down. Sometimes I can get Ferocious Bites to hit for 1,000,000 each. Usually it's about average of about 600, 700,000, maybe 800,000 on a good day, but that's average. They have crit for about 1.2 million. They go pretty freaking high sometimes. So that is a soft burst right there. That is a lot of easy damage to do. But when you're really bursting, you can go in hard. You can use your Incarnation. Motherfucker. God, everything's breaking. Okay, but you can use your Incarnation, and it'll increase your energy regeneration, and it'll increase your maximum energy too. So, you know, you use Incarn, and you're going to be able to pump out a lot of damage. Now, I basically use the same exact burst. I use Incarnation, and then I'll use my Tiger's Fury. I'll shred to 2 combo points. If it only awards 1, I will use Moonfire really quick to get to 2 combo points. And then I will use my Regrowth and Ashmane's Frenzy, and then use my second Blood Talons on Ferocious Bite. And now, because Incarnation increases the damage of Shred, and it also reduces the cost of spells, now you can use Shred pretty freely. So now it's a 20 energy spell. It cut it in half. You can see even down here it says 20% or 20 energy. Well, not anymore, but it does cost 20 energy. It halves it. So now you can use Shred a shit ton. So you shred, 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 all the way to 5 combo points, then you Ferocious Bite, making sure to use Regrowth when you Ferocious Bite. And since you have so much energy, you're going to be pumping out a lot more spells. You can even throw in a Regrowth or a Blood Talons on a Shred ever so often when Incarn is up. When Incarn is not up, you want to use Blood Talons pretty much all the time on Rake and Ferocious Bite, but always use it on Rip if you're throwing it up for the initial first time. But after you put your first Rip on a target, since Ferocious Bite will refresh Rip duration, you can use Regrowth on Ferocious Bite. I just want to keep saying that because I want to make sure everybody understands. And if you guys do have questions, I will answer them in the comments. You know, anything you need, let me know. I'm here for you, baby. And I will be live streaming. I was sick this last week. I'm still getting over it. I had a cold and it was very bad. I don't know if it was the flu or what, but I've been sleeping a lot. But I will be live streaming and putting out more video content, specifically PvP for now. A little bit of PvE sometimes, but that's not my primary objective. And I also want to put some news out for the new expansion that's coming out as well. I've been reading a lot of articles about it, and I'm like, damn, I should make a video about this. So I am going to be doing that a little bit more, and some dueling and all that fun stuff. Live streams are lit. I am going to be doing a sponsor giveaway for Christmas, Winter's Veil. So if you guys are sponsored to the channel, it'll be on the 24th, I believe. Maybe not the 24th. Let's see. It'll be on probably be the Saturday, the 23rd right here. So if you guys are sponsored, you can come in, get a chance at winning a headset. I haven't decided which one I'm going to buy yet, but I'm going to buy a headset, and I'm going to give it away to one of you sponsors out there. Right now we have about 15 sponsors, and oh, we have about 12 sponsors. When we get 15 sponsors, I'm doing a 24-hour live stream. But for all of you who have sponsored and supported the channel, thank you very much. It helps out quite a bit, and I really appreciate it. So that is why I'm giving away a headset to one of you guys right now. If you enjoyed this guide and you listened through my whole spiel on sponsors and giveaways and how I was sick, and you enjoyed this guide, leave a like and subscribe to the Feral Druid Army. I appreciate you guys coming by, and I hope that I helped you guys out. If you do have any more questions, leave them in the comments or join the live stream. I'm always willing to talk to people, so I will help you out any way I can. So I will see you guys in the streams, videos. Peace out. Have a good one, guys.